Some of us like to bash New Year celebrations. Whenever the New Year rolls in and celebrations begin to fly around, they get bent over with frustration. Their whole game is nothing but to downgrade everything. Sometimes last year, somebody asked me, what's so interesting about completing another revolution around the sun? You know, when you hear that, you get dumbfounded for a minute. Before I tell you the answer I told that person, I would like to say this. Rituals last longer than the reasons. I don't think we remind ourselves of that enough. Rituals last longer than the reasons, and you should know what I mean by that. Some of the traditions we do today, they started off many years ago for specific reasons. Now, those of us who practice the traditions today do not know the reasons. Those who passed down the traditions to us didn't tell us the reasons, and we didn't bother to find out. And those who condemn celebrations like New Year celebrations, they don't hear any reason coming from us, and so they feel like there is no reason anyway, it's all just superstition. But it isn't. So, what's really going on? If you are familiar with the billionaires of today, many of them are pushing for multiplanetary existence, like Elon Musk, or for transhumanism, or being a cyborg, like Peter Thiel. But we are creatures of earth and we are creatures of dust. Our lives are synced with the earth and its seasons and its cycles. For example, our food supply is based on the earth cycles. There are some fruits and some crops that only come up once in a year, and in a lot of ways we are dependent on that. Fine, there is such a thing as storage, and we can extend the food supply over a period of time. But you and I both know the benefit or the beauty or the pleasure of freshly harvested fruits and crops. It's very different. So in a very, very important way, we are creatures of earth, we are creatures of dust. Besides that, that punchline, like I said, that question, what's so interesting about completing a revolution around the sun? It's nothing but just deconstruction. That same attitude, if you want to apply it to everything, I can ask the person the question or this question, what's so interesting about a kiss? It's just lips rubbing against each other. But you and I know that it isn't so. You kiss the wrong person, you're going to get a slap. So everything means something. You can't just wish it away. And that attitude, people actually carry it up onto that level. I remember watching a movie some time ago about, creatures from space, and the way they refer to humans are mostly bags of water. But you and I know that's not what we are. But that attitude still pervades a lot of things that we do in the modern world. And like I said, it's very specific, or it comes out when the new year comes in and some people just want to bash it and say, why are we bothering ourselves celebrating all of that? But as one of my teachers often say, matter matters. Yes, it does. And I would like to add what you would easily agree with me, that life has meaning. There is meaning in all. So what are we doing when we celebrate the new year, or when we celebrate at all? Now, I'm one of the world's worst celebrants. I'm not the worst, but one of the worst. I'm very low on celebration. The few times that I do it is because either somebody is pushing me to do it, or in my mind, I have to remind myself, you don't do this, or this person might ask you, you haven't done this. And so before they ask me, I try to make plans for it. And that was very evident this Christmas. It was literally on Christmas Day that I remembered when somebody brought a gift to me. I remembered you didn't plan any gift for anybody this Christmas. It was then and there I got up from my seat and went to get some of the things I could also give as gifts to people. But I'm really terrible at celebration. I don't do it very well. Some 2 or 3 years ago, this was kind of made very clear to me. It was more like a warning from God, if I may say. Muiwa, you don't celebrate anything. You don't know how to celebrate. And when that kind of was brought to my attention in that very sharp way, I began to ask myself that question: why do we celebrate? What are we doing when we celebrate? Now, I don't want to take you through the long cut. I'll cut my search in short. But here is where I finally landed when about that whole question and searching. What does it mean to celebrate? For me, I would say to celebrate means to make much of. To celebrate is to make much of. And I think that immediately fits into the opening question I started with. It's very easy for us to downplay the importance of life and downplay many things in life. It's very, very easy. And the whole point of celebration is to tackle that attitude, because we can easily, this doesn't mean anything, this doesn't mean anything, this doesn't mean anything. Celebration helps us to correct that attitude of downplaying everything. We can downplay existence, and especially because there's a lot of darkness and evil that goes on in our world, we can feel like, what's there to celebrate? But here's the funny thing: even if you're so focused on the evil and the darkness and all that is wrong with our world, the reason why you think it is wrong is because you have such an idea of good or goodness. And you know deep in your bones, somewhere deep within you, that this is something is wrong with the world, because this is not the way it should be. Our world should be good. There's a way we understand good. There's something we know as good, and we know our world should be in that way, and it isn't. And so we say something is wrong with the world. So even when you talk about evil, you are acknowledging that there is such a thing as good, and that's the state our world should be in. So life itself is good. Beyond that, when you begin to think about good and evil, and you remind yourself of the fact of existence and consciousness itself, ignoring or not ignoring, but despite the pains and all the sorrows, you realize that consciousness is really, all existence and consciousness, life, it's really an enigma. Why? How did we show up here? Why did we? If you ask yourself that question, you quickly realize that existence and consciousness is really a gift, and we must learn to celebrate that gift. We must learn to, like I explained, make much of it and refresh one another on the fact of that gift as often as we can, and even the preciousness of that gift. So if you've not really wondered why we celebrate, now you know why we celebrate. And if you are those kind of killjoy people who downgrade everything and say, why celebrate the new year? Now you know why we should celebrate the new year. But there's something else that celebration also helps us to do. Remember what I said. We are creatures of earth. We are creatures of dust. Literally, this skin, this flesh is dust. It's sand. But we are creatures that came out of the earth, because, as you can see, we are creatures of dust. And just like the earth has its own rhythms or seasons and cycles, we humans too are creatures of rhythms. Without rhythms, our lives quickly spiral into madness and meaninglessness. And that's a fact. If your life just goes like this, it easily devolves into meaninglessness. Rhythm, like, think of the sine wave or the cosine wave, kind of gives us a sense of change and keeps things fresh. And even the changes itself has to experience some changes, if you get what I mean. So we are creatures of reading, and without reading, our lives can easily become pointless. You know it, life gets pretty mundane. You wake up in the morning, you go to work, you do your duties, you will leave work, you go back home, you tuck your children into bed, you make dinner before that, have dinner, maybe watch TV a little, or browse on your phone, then you eat the bed, and the cycle continues. So there's some change then, but like I said, even the change itself needs some big changes, because life gets pretty mundane very quickly. And those festivals, those celebrations, they help to introduce those big changes. You do something different from the usual everyday night and day. Now, you can say, oh, all we need to do is to remind ourselves of the need for reading or the value for life is to sit down and, have a conversation about the fact that life is valuable. But the festivals, the celebrations, they make a bigger point. Remember that we are not just rational beings, we are emotional beings. We are beyond just our thinking and our thoughts. We are much more than that. And just sitting down to have the conversation is good, but we need to be a whole person, human. Like, we need to acknowledge and engage our whole being. And celebrations, festivals with music, with eating, with dancing, and with sharing, and being in that whole big going on, it actually helps to engage our whole being, and it's important. Again, you should celebrate your birthday personally to remind yourself of that on a personal basis, that life is a gift. You should do that because, again, it's important. But beyond just personal celebrations, we need the larger gatherings that everybody joins in on, and we celebrate as Earth, as a whole race, as human race, and as a whole planet, if I may put it that way. We need those kind of celebrations that bring every one of us together, not just your personal birthdays or your local celebrations, but the worldwide celebrations that, as a species and as a world, we say to ourselves that life is a gift. Our being here, it shouldn't be, as some people like to call it, it is contingent. But here we are, and for whatever the pains and sorrows of the world that we experience, the fact of life, the fact of consciousness, these are gifts, and we need to celebrate them regularly. So if you're one of those killjoy people who has been a downer throughout today, the first day of the new year, I believe you now know better. You've got tomorrow and the weekend. Go ahead and celebrate. Before you go, if you think about it, every new day or new week or new month, or especially every new year, it gives us an opportunity to ask, am I doing the best with my life? But that's the theme of our next video. Compliments of the season to you.